Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to League of Europe. We are here tonight for season number 8. It's Division 1. It is round 5, I think, of the championship as we take in the Italian Grand Prix, the original Italian Grand Prix, of course, from the Autodromo Internazionale di Monza. My name is James Head. I'm going to be taking you to the stream, as always, on a Saturday night, and joining me in the commentary box, as always, it is Mr. QVR Killer. Killer, how you doing?
I'm doing in nature and in style to what we all saw at Miami last week, so should be a good one.
It should be a good one indeed. Hopefully people did hear that. I know my OBS has been acting up a little bit tonight, so hopefully we're all going to be okay, and hopefully it is going to be quite a stable stream. If it's not, let me know in the comment section. I'll try and fix things as we go along. To remind you, of course, though, of the championship standings after round 4, of course, Connor did take that race when he got that 5-second penalty removed, of course, from Miami. Montana there in second, beating up basically his 100% record of wins in this season here in LOE. Wooter there finishing there in third. Rudy in fourth, Yaron, Campbell, Packer, Yilbream, Izza and Gary were classed as the top 10. And Montana still has, well, he pretty much has now, a 2-race advantage over Wouter coming into tonight. It's 104 points for Montana. Wouter there in second on 56. Rudy there in third on 54. Pease there in fourth on 39. Packer fifth on 28. Yilbream sixth on 27. Connor 7th on 25, Campbell in 8th on 23, Justas in 9th on 18, and then Yaron there in 10th on 17 points. Montana, 48-point advantage, I think I put it out as, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the advantage. However, I'm questioning myself, saying that might be a little wrong. No, it's not. 48, 56 is 104, isn't it?
Yes, it is. 48.
It is.
48. You are very correct.
I was just questioning myself there, to be honest. Yeah, Montana, so 48 points clear of Wouter. Rudy, of course, is not going to be here. Packer, not here tonight as well. Pretty much set up, I think, for Montana domination job.
It is, yeah. You say two race wins clear, near enough. We've got 13 races to go, but it feels very much like it's a 13-race coronation for Montana. The real battle, I think, is for second. We've got Wouter and Rudy split by 2 points. Rudy, though, not here this evening. I think Pease can very much fly himself into that fight as well, although dropped out of it last week with a non-score at a horror show of a race at Miami. Packer's been solidly consistent, although, again, not here this evening. Same goes for Julbream in 6th. Remarkable to think for Connor that win last week was his first points of the season, despite attending all 4 races, but he's underway now as well. Campbell hopefully can get a solid run of attendances going as well after missing 2 races, and Justas back after 3 non-scores as well. So I think the battle for second is going to be infinitely more fascinating than the battle for win. We might see people challenge Montana week to week, as we saw Connor did last week, although that seemed very not scripted so much, but very coordinated last week. But very much there is a fight for second in the championship ongoing, and I can't pick a favourite out of that. I think Rudy, no disrespect to him, I know you rate him very highly. I think Rudy's overachieved a little bit so far this season. And I think there are people like Julbream, like Connor, like Campbell, like Justas, who are really going to throw themselves into that fight over the weeks to come.
Yeah, I definitely think with Connor, obviously, he took the win last week in Miami, and before then, he was pretty much at the disposal of his internet, I think, to be honest, and bad luck as well within the races. He approached last week absolutely as you should to try and bounce back this season. Absolutely dominated right from the front. I told, basically, in the commentary last week, of course, that Connor had the pace of Montana. That was proven, of course, towards the end of the race, and that, of course, meant Connor took the win, even though he did pick up a 5-second penalty, which, of course, got removed by Mr. Eloise Stewart, which is really good indeed. Let us have a look, then, at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza track. 5.7 kilometres, then 3.5 mile around the Temple of Speed. It's 11 corners, 08 an hour drivers out on track. Of course, the 2 DRS zones, one down the start-finish straight into the Retafield chicane, and then one in towards the Ascari chicane at turns 8, 9, and 10. And, of course, it is a bootleg-shaped track as well. It's a boot-shaped track even here in Monza. One of the historics, and, Mr. Killer, 78% of the lap can be taken at full speed.
It is the fastest track on the calendar. We're going to get a quick race night. Unless it's wet, unless it's safety cars, we could see a race time under 40 minutes, which good for me. Wanted to get some practice in before D2. But yeah, a proper driver's circuit here. It feels like you're almost running on train tracks. The track is that narrow, it's bumpy, makes you like going a lot fast, even faster than you are. And you've got to really thread it through some of those tricky little chicanes. De La Rogier at 1 and 2. Retafilo at 1 and 2, and De La Rogier 3 and 4 and 5. Both of those chicanes absolutely critical braking events because the curbs here are so what's the word I want to say? They're so fiddly that it's very easy to mess them up. If you take 90% of the curb, it can be perfect. You go a little over, you get a warning, or the car can bottom out and spin out. So you've got to be so precise, particularly through that second chicane of turns 4 and 5. The Lesmos as well, the curbs on the exit can catch you out. Ascari is an absolute menace. So proper driver's track, this one. And I think we could see, not crashes, but I think we're going to see quite a few mistakes here, particularly in qualifying, where you're right up against the limit. This is a very precise track, as I said. Easy to lose a few tenths here, a few tenths there. I think we're going to see a very shaky, nervy qualifying session.
Yeah, potentially so. We're going to see, I think, maybe a lot of traffic in qualifying as well, with it only being a very short track, of course. It's 5.8 kilometres in length, but an average lap time around here is around the 118, 119 mark in qualifying. So obviously we're going to be seeing a lot of traffic in a short space of time. Potentially the opportunity for a lot of slipstreaming as well, can gain up to 3 or 4 tenths per second, definitely on this lap as well. But obviously we will see when we get out on track. And looking at the comment section, by the way, Montana, evening gents, another horrible track to get out the way. He doesn't rate himself coming in tonight. He didn't rate himself a couple of weeks ago as well, and he took the race win there. So maybe Montana is playing a little bit of mind games with our commentary duo here. Of course, Mr. Jav as well in the comment section saying, hello gents, looking forward to this one. Many boys looking fast in practice, and potentially the one round Gary to get one up on Montana. It's going to be a great watch. I think we have got our little Gary supporter potentially in the chat there in Jav. We have got the action now developing out on track, though. 18 drivers, of course, awaiting us out on track, not the full grid. But we do have Lolvercar back, so I'm assuming we're going to break the algorithm again like we did for round 1.
Hopefully we get some nice bots in chat and we can blow up, get maybe 100 concurrent viewers. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But I want to see what the weather's going to be, because this is a track, of course, where weather and a little bit of rain is not out of the question. Although it is nice and dry for qualifying, I wouldn't put it past a wet race. I remember we had an awful Division 1 wet race here. I think it was in season 4, where it was wet the entire race, and at no point were either the inters or the drive particularly quicker. It was just greasy and horrible for the entire race. But Larkin tells us, Jeffing J. Cole, I presume, that it is dry. So let's have a look. Who is first out on track? It is...
Who else?
We've not got Packer. Yeah, we've not got Packer here this week, so it is Montana instead. Montana first out, as you say, as he likes to be. But not a fan of this track. You mentioned, he said in chat, but I don't think, he's not pulling the wool over my eyes. That is not stopping this man getting pole position today, I am sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, he's about 2 or 3 tenths per second potentially ahead of everyone else in the session. Of course, Connor potentially could try and challenge him. I know Lou is quite quick around this track as well. Look forward to seeing what he can do, of course. He has not gone for the LFR Cup event like he did last week. He is back here this week in LOE, which is really good, and I look forward to seeing how he gets on, of course. Out on track tonight, potentially could have been a favourite for Miami last week as well. So a week later than scheduled, but perhaps he's going to be towards the top end of the field as we'll run on board with Montana. Coming out of Parabolica, of course, Curva Alboreto, of course, is the name in 2021 after legendary, of course, Alboreto, Formula 1 driver. I can't remember his first name for the life of me, so it's just Alboreto. Down in towards turn number 1, though, at the Retafilio chicane. I will get the chicanes mixed up, so don't worry. Coming through the right-hand of turn 1, through the left-hand of turn 2, at the Retafilio chicane, and then through the Curva Grande, or the Curva Biasono, to give it its full name as well. Coming through the right-hander here with turn number 3, taking the little thin line, saving as much ground as you can, potentially on that curb, and being now coming through toward the end of the first sector. 26.1 in the first sector. Through the Delaware chicane, through 4, through 5. A little bit sketchy, has to be on the exit there for Montana. A little bit sideways, but he's okay. So now comes in towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Of course, not to be confused with anything else that might come into your dirty frame minds, as Montana now comes down in towards the curve. Oh, what is it called? The curve Oh, Cover del Seraglio, there we go. Down in towards Ascari, 52.6 through the middle sector for Montana, into Ascari through turn 8, through turn 9, through the left hand of turn number 10. He's absolutely wickedly flying on this lap at this moment in time, passing the stands there on the left hand side, on the run up towards the curve of the curve of Grande or the curve of Alboreto, Parabolica or the curve of Alboreto, coming to the right-hander, should be around a 118 I think to start off the 90, maybe from Montana, on the run towards the line, and in fact it's a 119.2 to start off the night.
It is, and Gary beats it immediately by 24,000. Wow. I was flicking between 12 Ataris on that lap. Gary was 4,000 quicker than Montana through the middle sector split. Found a fraction more, less than that even, in the final sector. Gary, Connor there, sorry. With a 19.0. So Montana immediately out the blocks in his first run, not particularly looking too strong by his standards. Only third place. Campbell within a tenth of him as well. And I'm intrigued to see how Dylan does. I just want to mention him this week. His first race in this League of Europe season, of course. And Lulvacar into P2 there. I wonder if his fans will be celebrating in chat with a 19.133. Montana in fourth place. Two Aston Martins, then two AlphaTauris. The championship leader's not having it all his own way, James.
Yeah, definitely not. Conrad on top, Lulvacar there in second, Gary in third, Montana currently down in fourth, Justas down in seventh as well. 19.6, considering I'm assuming he hasn't done much practice coming into tonight, a 19.6, way off the pace compared to Justas last season. I think he said a 19.2 as Connor has retired through the session from the Lesbo 2. Very strange indeed as he's crashed through there. I think that was on a down lap if I'm not mistaken. He's crashed on the exit of Lesbo 2. We'll run above Verstappen. He's just coming up towards the scene of the accident as well. Rocco is coming through that part of the track I think as well. But Verstappen, there he is on the right hand side of the car. And Verstappen's nearly done the same thing. Verstappen does the same thing, coming through Lesmo 2, gets caught on the outside curb, over-rotates the car around, he applied too much throttle basically on the curb, spins the car, and Verstappen nearly ending up like Connor. Goodness me, good save though, and I don't think he's got any damage, which is good.
Fabulous save, but those tyres will be absolutely in the bin. Pease has messed up his first run as well. He came straight back into the pits at the end of his flying lap. So already with Connor, Verstappen and Pease, drivers who are, D1 stalwarts, they're confident drivers, but they're not having it their own way here, and we're seeing a lot of shaky mistakes. Although, that said, most drivers have managed to get laps in, although Reservoir has bailed on his as well. I think Hyper is going to be the last one coming through Parabolic, and now just turn 11 to navigate. Can't run wide here, the stewards are monitoring that one, keeps it nicely in play, and he is going to finish his lap. Where's he going to put one? I think it's going to be too competitive indeed. It's not at 9.7. 3/1000 behind Jekyll in 12th place, but most people getting a respectable banker on the board, but for Verstappen, Reservoir and Pease.
Yeah, Jekyll's on a lap as well. He's gone for another run, so he's basically gone first lap, cool down lap, next lap, and it looks like he's going actually for more runs than inevitability. He's only 800% in the middle sector. And the Red Bull's looking quite quick as he now comes through Parabolica through the right-hander of turn number 11. He might just streak it back into the pit lane. No, he's going to go for another run. No, he comes in the pit lane. Absolutely typical, Mr. Jekyll. He comes in the pit lane. Montana and Pease, they'll be first men now back out on track for their second runs. Pease potentially for his first run, obviously to try and get on the board. But it's Conrad on top, Lulvacar in second, Gary in third of the way through qualifying. But the big shock already, Mr. Killer, it is, of course, Connor out of the session, 19 flat, crashing out of Lesbo 2.
And I'll be honest, I don't think he'll hold on to that. I know a lot of drivers were mooting 18s as the pole position time, even for multiple drivers. So Connor, provisionally pole now, but that could be very costly because I think we'll see drivers improve on that. Montana absolutely needs to improve from P4. It's a testament to how good he is that we're saying P4 is a terrible first effort from Montana. But, and you can see, I don't know if you're on board with him, James, but properly weaving down towards Parabolica. And that's a unique facet of this track, is that you can't get the tyre temperature in on the outlap that we take for granted at most tracks, because you don't have those high-low corners to generate temperature. You have to work it in yourself to get the temps up. And Montana is starting his second lap now. I dare say he'll improve, but he needs a very big lap here. And I think, I'm sure, no, Montana, he's going to get it.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick a 28-8 perhaps here for Montana coming through the rest of the chicane, down through in towards Curva Grande. Of course, Pease as well is on a lap as well. Gumball with Pease, actually, he's on a lap at this stage, 26.3. 204 mile an hour carried in towards the Delaroche chicane. He's got caught on the outside of the Delaroche, and I think that might be his lap done, as now Montana comes through that part of the track, rides the curb nicely through 4 and 5, and then in towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Of course, that has claimed a couple of victims so far out on track in Verstappen and Connor. Verstappen still in the session. Montana has a big slide coming out of Lesmo 1 through Lesmo 2. That's more control coming through there, but a real big slide coming out, and that might have cost him about a tenth of a second on the run down. He has got a little bit of slipstream from a car ahead. I think that might be Pease ahead of him potentially. 500s up them in the middle sector, 52.5. He's not actually improving on Connor's lap time so far. That was a lot quicker though, I think, through Ascaris. He now pulls off the left-hand side there, the Williams on the left-hand side as Montana trying to weave again to get temperature into the tyres, and now coming in towards Parabolica at turn 11. What is Montana going to do in terms of this lap? He comes through the final couple of corners on the run to the line, and of course it's a 1:19.1 to beat him. Montana bailed into the pit lane, not surprised at all. He had a mistake coming out of Lesmo 1, Lesmo 2 was fine, then through Ascari looked a little slow. Montana, I think, bails into the pit lane, and do you know what? I think it's the right decision for now. Gary, though, a 10th up in the middle sector.
He's having a massive lap. He looks the much happier Alpha Parry. Montana had a squirrely moment out of turn 5 as well at the Delaroche chicane. Just doesn't seem too happy around this track. But Gary in a much more confident place. That was nice and silky and smooth through Parabolica. Campbell goes fastest with a 19.0. Beats out Connor by 7 thousandths. Where's Gary going to go? Gary improves by a tenth and a half. He's now within 16 thousandths of Campbell. Our top 3 split by less than a fifth of a tenth of a second. Lulvacar's got Invalid behind them. Lou's just started his flying lap.
No,
he's coming through. Oh, he's just finished. Wouter, though, improving. He's up by a quarter of a tenth in the first sector, and now coming through Lesmo 2.
Actually, Lou was on a lap. He was a 10th up in the first sector, but he just absolutely butchered the Delaroche chicane. He went into the gravel there on the left-hand side, and Lou, unfortunately, nearly rammed there in 6th position. He has backed off his lap. As you were saying, Lulvacar had him validated as well. I'm assuming he'll come back into the pit lane for 3rd potential run. Campbell, though, out on top. Who would have thought it? Campbell now out on top. Connor there in 2nd, Gary there in 3rd. Montana, current leader in the championship, and of course, 4-time champion here in LOE Division 1, looking for that 5-timer, of course, this season. Unless I'm taking the title that might have not been his, potentially, and just added on to his total there. Montana, though, in 5th, 19.2. He's back out on an outlap. He does mean business, potentially, Montana, but it all depends on how he feels necessary. Because I think it was Imola, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of rounds ago, where he was absolutely not at home with the track, and he ended up winning by an absolute street. And Montana there in 5th. We know he's got pace. Will he, though, show that on this lap?
I mean, the more laps that go by that Montana can't hook it up, the more pressure gets put onto the next subsequent lap, and it makes it even harder to hook it up. I think he'll pull something out of it, but we'll see. J. Cole was up by 2/10 in the middle sector, and I think this will find him a good amount of time. He could go towards Shirota, goes into P10. And I just say, I saw a couple of chokes in the middle sector. Justas had a massive first sector, really impressive, 26.0, and then he lost all of that time in the middle. Verstappen did something similar and has had to bail on his second run, still on a 19.7. We saw Montana had a scruffy middle sector as well, now starting his lap, of course. So the second sector of this track, possibly the Delaroche chicane, possibly the Lesmos, or a combination of both of them more likely, is really causing some of these drivers to come unstuck. They're not improving through the middle part of the lap. They're finding the time in the first part, and then they're just seizing up and choking through the middle part of the lap. Montana 400s up, but let's see how he takes the Delaroche chicane this time. The car just spent a little bit through the first part of the chicane, took the curb too much, just clipped the orange on the turn 5. He kept it together just enough, I think, but that will have been less than ideal. Just saw a car behind him going very wide, and again the car looked like it wanted to step out on him through Lesmo 2. We'll see where he comes through the middle part, under the bridge course, under the old Monza circuit. Where is he through the middle of 52.6? He's lost time again as Montana. Not a happy bunny.
Not a happy bunny indeed. He's out of Ascari a lot quicker though compared to last time, and he's now 5th position currently, 19.2 on his lap. Campbell currently 2/10 ahead of him. in pole position at the minute, and Montana has to find this time from somewhere. He's got very low fuel, and he steps out nearly coming through Parabolica, and do you know what? I think he might decide to come in the pit lane, but he doesn't. He continues on with this lap on the run to the line, doesn't find the time in the end. He only goes fourth, 19.085, and he's 500ths of a second off Campbell, so it's now the front four covered by 500ths of a second. Campbell out on top, Connor there in second, Gary there in third, Montana there in fourth. Just trying to see if there's anybody else on laps as well. I think Izza has just started on one, Dylan has just started on one. He's 300s up through the first sector, so we're right on board with the Alpine actually coming through. Of course, Alpine with Fernando Alonso starting third in qualifying. If I have just ruined that for anyone, I do distinctly apologise, but it's Campbell out on top, Connor second, Gary in third. Dylan, though, on this lap, have you seen something?
Isaac was on a very good first sector and then just completely messed up De La Rogier. Got too much curb on the first part of it, and the lap was gone for him. But Dylan on a much better lap, 161 thousandths up, if I'll say that word.
Yeah, nearly 2 tenths up, I think, Dylan, on this lap. He's actually not looking too bad on this lap. I think he found a lot more time than what we're leading on to here in the final sector. So Dylan coming through the final corner at Parabolica, on the run to the line. Maybe a 19.5 potentially from Dylan onto the line. Oh, 19.5.
Mystic James.
19.5. Mystic James coming back to everyone. Justas, however, though, 52.7 is going quick in the middle sector, so we're right on board with the Red Bull for now. Campbell out on top, Connor second, Gary in third, Montana in fourth. He's coming back in the pit lane, but Justas on a good lap as well. Defending champion, of course, Justas from last season in season number 7, and Justas potentially going to be up toward the top end of the field here. Comes around the final corner, be aiming, I think, for Lovacar, Lou, Wouter, Euron, that sort of area, on the run to the line. And he goes 6th ahead of Lou, and that's exactly where I was expecting him to go. Justas going 6th, improved about 0.3 of a second on his lap, as I think we've got Verstappen and Brendan just starting up on laps as well. Verstappen 500s up.
Yeah, Verstappen's on a much better effort this time. You can see Lesmo too, he goes nowhere near the inside curve, not fancying a repeat of what happened earlier on when Connor crashed in the same spot, of course, whereas Verstappen through the middle sector, it's not a great lap. He's backed up once again. Verstappen cannot find the lap time at all. He just can't hook these corners up. And I think that's what I was saying about, it feels like you're running on train tracks, or the track feels so narrow and enclosed. You feel so trapped in when you try to go through some of these corners because they're so high speed. The track's not a wide one. Anyways, Brendan loses it. And Ascari there, and that'll take a bite out of his rear wing. That's his session over, down in 12th place there. But don't think Brendan will be the first or last person today to lose it through there. Yes, that's just on his in lap, no one else on a flying lap. But yeah, that's a big drop from Brendan. He's lucky he didn't retire, but he's not got time to go again anyway.
Yeah, Brendan, I think, more ended up like spinning Brenda out on track. Campbell out on top, Connor in second, Gary in third, 2.5 minutes ago. He will get me for that one later on, I'm absolutely sure. But Campbell out on top, he's now the first man out on track. 19 flat. Now, obviously, drivers were muting, obviously, and saying maybe 118s. Campbell, he has set so high of a lap, I think. Are we going to see potentially any improvements at the back end of this qualifying session? Because it will be so difficult to try and improve on a lap you're pretty much perfect on.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is it's such a pressurised situation that it's so easy to make a mistake in, more so than other tracks. It's easier to lose time than it is to gain it. And we saw that with the likes of Isaac, Verstappen, Montana through the middle sector, Justas as well on his previous lap. It's so easy to lose time and you feel under so much pressure, your heart rate goes through the roof. Even though it's only a league race, your heart rate is thundering in your chest because it feels such a pressure situation. And it's very easy to lose that time, although Campbell is in the best position possible. I wouldn't put it past Gary, though. I know I've seen Gary do some 18s this week. He's very much in this fight with pole as well, as is Montana. And Lovacar just starting his final lap as well, along with Campbell. Where's Campbell going to go through the first? We want to see a 26.0, 26.1, somewhere around there to be in that competitive, aiming for a high 18 ballpark. It's a 26.0 for Campbell. He's up by half a tenth. That puts him on course for an 18.
Beautiful.
And De La Rogier chicane looked lovely as well. Campbell not feeling the pressure so far on this lap, but he's still got the tricky Lesmo 2. And it's going, he luckily avoids invalidation there through Lesmo 1. Faster back out completely. Lovacar, though, up by almost the same amount, half a tenth as well, 26.105 for him through the first sector.
Yeah, he is on the run down and towards the sky. We'll see on board with the Aston Martin. 52.6. He's actually lost time in the middle sector, but he can gain that all back in the final sector. He was absolutely on the limit coming through Ascari. And the Aston Martin and the Spaniard, of course, returning for the first time, I think, in 3 weeks. He is now on a lap for the LFR team. Lou on a lap as well. Representing, of course, FRL here to lap Campbell out on top. Connor second, Gary in third. Lovelcar a little bit step wide coming through Parabolic. I don't think he's going to find the time on the run to the line here. Yeah, Lovelcar is well down to the final sector. Only a tenth and a half. Montana's coming through the first sector. Gary's 800s up, though. Gary potentially on the big shock as Lou as well is on a lap.
They lose up by 2/10, and his Ascari looks silky smooth as well. Gary's lost time through the middle sector. He's gone down by half a tenth. Must have had a scruffy Lesmo too, because his De La Roche chicane looked quite tidy. So Lou just parabolic navigate, didn't go deep. Car not stepping out on him. Lovely last corner from Lou. This could be provisional contention for a front row spot here. It's a 19.052. Just beats out Gary's. Gary going to find his time. Gary goes to provisional pole with a 19.03.
Montana,
James, up by 0.2 of a second here.
0.2 of a second down in towards Parabolica. The AlphaTauri man is absolutely flying. And now he's on the brink, potentially, of provisional pole, at least at the end of this session. Gary out on top, Campbell in second, but surely they're going to have to all bow down to Montana. Is this an 18.9 incoming? Yes, it is, a 1:18.9. He's only 400th of a second clear, though. Campbell's invalidated. He was a 10th up on his lap as well. Through the middle sector, Campbell's invalidated coming through Ascari. Lovelcar is also invalidated. Justas is on lap, and he's 3/10 up. He's 3/10 up coming through Ascari, and now he's on an absolute humdinger of a lap. The Red Bull man potentially going to try and challenge our champion-elect, potentially in terms of Montana, the current champion in Justas. Now coming in toward Parabolica. Montana out on top, Gary in second, Campbell in third, Connor in fourth, and he spins it coming out of Parabolica. That is it, over and done with in qualifying. Justas, I don't think was happy with the exit out of Ascari either, but it is Montana out on top. Gary in second, and for the first time this season, I think we've got a front row lockout of the same constructor.
We have indeed. AlphaTauri's front row, Gary will be feeling. He'll be happy for Montana. He'll want his teammate to win the title. But Gary will be feeling a little bit miffed, I should think. He did everything right that last lap. He threw away a little time in the middle sector, but really, given it's the actual thing, the proper main event, last lap, Gary did as good a thing as he could have done there. Couldn't quite pull it off, but sticks 100th of a second cover 5 drivers. We've got Lovelcar in no man's land there, and then Justas leads the best of the rest. And from 7th down to 13th, we've got an equally clustered pack there. We had sort of 2 fields in qualifying. We've got the top 6 and then 7th to 13th as well.
The whole field covered by less than 0.8 of a second, but it's Montana out on top. It's Gary in second, it's Campbell in third. Connor, by the way, with that lap of 19 flat, got him 4th in the end in that qualifying session. I think he would have gone pole potentially. Lou in 5th, Lovelcar, Justas, Verstappen, Wouter, Pease top 10, Jake Hall, Jeroen, Izza, Dylan, Rocco top 15, Brendan, Reservoir, Hyper, the top 18 drivers, the only 18 drivers that we've got, of course, in the lobby. Less than 0.8 of a second. Always going to be close in qualifying. Fuel strategy, by the way, since the removal of refuel in the 2010 season, fuel strategy is now about how much fuel is required to finish the race, and by increasing cars' fuel efficiency, it just went off my screen, but you can get the gist about that fuel efficiency fact that came up on my screen there on the left-hand side. But it's beautiful blue skies and sunshine once again. Montana out on top, Gary in second. What on earth are we going to see in this race? Is Montana potentially going to have his own way at the start?
I don't think so. I think the AlphaTauris will be fighting to win. I don't think we'll see as coordinated a battle as we saw between Montana and Connor last week, which did seem very much like they had something of a gentleman's agreement not to fight for most of that race. I think Gary will be desperate to win. He always goes well at Monza. Historically, it's one of his better tracks, and I take great pride in having beaten him to the D2 win here in Season 3. I just had to drop that into spring. But yeah, I think Gary goes very well here. He knows if he has any chance of winning a race this season, it's Monza. He adores this track. He's one of the few. He's absolutely going for the win today. I have no doubt about that. And it's funny you should mention fuel as well. This is one of the few tracks where drivers will be running possibly a deficiency of fuel. They may be running under-fueled at the start of the race, because you do gain fuel back here, very slowly albeit, but you do gain it back. So those who are naturally more forgiving on fuel will be running under fuel here, particularly with the risk of safety cars as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, June there in the comment section saying, good luck to the pad drivers, you will need it. We know, I think. And if Gary obviously had ABS, I think he probably would have got pole position potentially as well. Formation lap is on, though, in this league. I've been used to having the formation lap all week. Montana, though, is the first man out on track, obviously. And a bit of a split strategy throughout the field. Obviously, we've been used to softs, mediums, softs. Not on this game, however, because of course drivers can have the free choice of tyre at the start of the race. Montana on a set of hards, Gary on a set of mediums, Campbell on a set of hards, and it's Connor, Lou, Lovicar on a set of mediums, Justus Verstappen, Wouter, Pease, Jekyll, Jeroen all on a set of hards, Izza on a set of mediums, Dylan on a set of hards along with Rocco, Forza Brendan on a set of soft compounder tyre, interesting. Reservoir there in 17th on a set of mediums, and Hyper down at the back of the field on a set of hard compounder tyres. Split strategy, though, from the AlphaTauri's. I'm not really surprised. Will Gary, though, get halfway in this race on that set of medium compounder tyres? Because it's almost as if it's been set up potentially for Gary to actually win this rather than Montana.
I think he could well do. I think Gary's got a good chance. I mean, the mediums go a long way, the hards go a long way. The delta between them isn't quite as big here as it has been at other tracks. For USA example, it was massive at Kota. It's not as big here at all. I'm surprised not to see Montana do what he historically has done this season, which is start on the softer tyre and then run away a little bit. I think Gary's got his best chance here to take this race by scruff neck and try and get a little bit of a gap. But Gary is his own worst enemy in this situation. I wonder if this is why Montana has gone for the hard, because Gary's starts have been awful this season. He can't get on top of them. He's such a long run down to turn one. Even with the medium tyre, it wouldn't surprise me if Montana leads this race into turn one, and that's why he thinks he's gone for the hard, because he knows with Gary's bad starts behind him, he can start hard and he can cover Gary off. So if ever there was a time for Gary to not mess up the start, it's this one.
It is this one indeed. Montana out on top, Gary there in second, Campbell there in third. Dylan and Rocco unfortunately had a collision on that formation lap on the run up towards Parabolica, and Montana taking into his grid stop. Very nicely done indeed. Everyone now rejoining their grid stop, and we better get going as Connor's been disqualified. He's been placed, I think, by the game. Everyone else is now lined up on the grid, though. We better get going. The 5 later Paraguay team in Italy.
His grid spot as well. Long so far back.
He is indeed 5 lights are on, and we go green here in Monza, and it's Montana that leads the way off the line, with Gary there in second, Campbell in third, and Campbell's got an absolute great start. Gary's had an absolute shocker off the line, and Montana leads the way down towards turn one with a 3/10 lead. Campbell on the outside line of Connor, now makes an NSX 1-2, around the outside goes Connor, job done, he's through and he's into second, great start from him. Lou as well is up to fourth, Gary's absolutely slept off the side, he's down in fifth. Reservoir got caught up in, I think, a little bit of contact coming through the Retifield chicane at turn number 1 and 2, and he's now down at the back of the field behind Rocco, but Montana leads the way, 7/10 of a second, as Justus tries to force the inside line there with Lovicar down in toward the Della Roggia chicane. 2x2 in the background, though. Pease and Verstappen going side by side. You're all now on the inside line for Lesmo 1. The Mercedes might get this job done. There's a yellow flag in the middle second. That's Dylan, I think, that has partly spun. He's recovered the car, though, and Dylan is back going there in 18th. But you're on there in 10th. Verstappen there in 11th, getting the job done there, the Mercedes. Montana leads the way. Connor in second. Who would have thought Connor would be on the back of him at the end of lap 1?
Yeah, that's how you take advantage of the medium tyres when you start on them. And all over the back of Montana through Sky as well. Connor, looking hungry. Some great races as well. Further down the field, you mentioned between Pease and Verstappen. They managed to keep it contact-free and side by side. Brendan's dropped it at Ascari through Della Roggia chicane. Jeroen then capitalised on that opportunistic overtaking Lesmo 1 on Verstappen as well. He lost 2 places in there. But Connor looks very up for this, and Campbell with a great start as well. It's coming good for Connor. He's made the most of those medium tyres.
Yeah, as well as Izza. He's on the back of Jeroen running down in towards turn number 1. Jeroen trying to pull out the slipstream on Pease down in towards turn number 1. Was that Connor going a little bit too deep on Montana there? I think it was.
Yeah, I think he just about locked the rear tyres almost and nearly hit the back of his NSX teammate. Did so well to get that car slowed without slamming into the back of the AlphaTauri. He's just about kept it, not lost too much time, and hasn't given up anything to Campbell or Lou as well.
Yeah, Dylan, Rocco and Brendan all into the pit lane, all going for a different set of tyres as well. Set of softs for Rocco, set of mediums for Dylan, set of hards for Brendan. So the absolute all-three strategy there going on from the three of them. But Montana leads the way. Connor there in second. Look on it on the first lap. Maybe the pressure just got to him. Maybe he's just over pushing it slightly. But on the run down in towards the score, he's only 5/10 away. And do you know what? Those medians are probably going to be about 5/10 quicker per lap at this stage of the race compared to Montana's hard in the first half of this race. Gary right on the back of Lou as well, running down in towards Ascari for the second time. Lou making a really good start up to fourth position. Changes, by the way, ignoring the ones at the back who've obviously lost positions. Jekyll has lost 2, Verstappen's lost 4, Gary's lost 3 obviously off the start. Most positions gained though. Piper right from the back of the field down in 18th position, now up 4 positions. Jekyll's gone off in the background, kind of trying to attack Montana in towards turn number 1 as well. But Jekyll slightly round as now Reservoir is right on the back, and Hyper's going to make him another position potentially in towards turn number 1 as Connor has retaken the lead of Montana. And actually Montana, don't know what's gone on there, to be honest. Connor's now down to third, and all of a sudden, I think they made contact in towards turn number 1. Lou on the back as well, but Connor's now on the outside line in towards Curva Grande. This is going to be impossible to pull off the Aston Martin on the outside of the Alfa Romeo. Campbell gives him the space, and Connor's through. What a move that is. Lou's now going to absolutely fight that and get to the inside line to try in towards Lesmo 1 for P3. Montana leads the way, Connor in second. I can only assume Connor made contact with Montana in towards turn 1. They had to go across the escape road, and Montana inherited the lead. Connor, though, absolutely back, pulls a negative intra positive and pulls himself back into P2 as Hyper's crash out the session through Lesmo 2.
He hasn't. I didn't catch that, but I think you're absolutely right in what happened between Montana and Connor. I think there must have been some kind of contact. Montana managed to make the corner. Connor had to go skittling over the sleeping police.
Is Justas?
No safety car, and yes, Justas is fighting Lulvacar towards Parabolica. Nearly lost that place to Wouter 2 corners ago, and now instead he's challenging for P6 there on the back of Lulvacar. Campbell was shot there in the same way. Oh, Justas is through now. Campbell got ruined there in the same way Verstappen did on the first lap by that overtake from Pease and Giroux. It was a carbon copy for Campbell, and he's lost 2 places. And Connor into the lead of this race.
Yeah, easy down and towards turn number 1, fighting further down the field as well. Lovico on the back of Justas. Justas, though, got him around the outside of Parabolica. Nice move there by Justas on the switchback and got him through. And he's into P6. Lovico just struggling on those set of mediums there in 7th. But now Connor, pretty much in the same scenario now as what he was in Miami. He's got the pace over Montana. He's got the tyres over Montana as well. Surely this is opportunity to pull away, especially considering Montana's just had an absolute butchering of the Della Roger chicane.
Yeah, Montana doesn't look happy. He didn't look happy in qualifying. Doesn't look any happier in the race. And that mistake just compounded that. Another little squirrely moment out of Lesmo 2. He had a second over Lou. Lou, though, on the mediums, I think he's going to, if he can just about stay in the DRS, if he can have a good Ascari here, I don't think these guys up front are going to manage to break the train. Izat passes Pease there with the DRS towards Ascari, and Izat keeps the car nicely in bounds as well. I'm surprised we've not seen anyone else other than Brendan drop it through there so far today. It's so close. Look at Wouter on the back of Lulvacar, pulls that look to the right, has to tuck back in. But the train is so fragile. Any mistake, it could break. And Justas has just slipped out of it, I think, possibly. He's going to hang on to DRS because he had it before the start line. We've got a yellow flag. That is J. Cole round at Parabolica, who's made a second mistake there today. And look at Gary passing Campbell. It's all happening, James.
It is. Gary through and he's into 4th. Campbell down to 5th. White's through and he's into 7th on Lulvacar as well. And J. Cole is into the pit lane after spinning through Parabolica. I think he had front wing damage potentially on that car as well. So that is why he is round. But Connor leads the way. Montana in second. Lou in third. What a crazy opening 5 laps here in Monza. And who said Monza shouldn't be removed off the calendar? We certainly don't think that here in the commentary box. Probably one of the most wackiest openings, I think, from Monza Grand Prix I've ever seen, to be honest, here in LOE, which is really good, and it keeps us on our toes for sure, as now it all settles down, potentially once again, as I'm on board the back of Izza, on the back of Lulvacar, and it potentially looks like Izza could get the move done down towards the score. I think he's just happy, though, to run on the train for now, and yeah, nobody's going to try and go for the move, I don't think, down the straight in towards Ascari. Maybe, though, down in towards turn 1 with our leaders. Montana on the back of Connor, 49% of ERS currently. Connor's got 23%, so he's pretty much doubling the amount of ERS Montana at this stage. And I think Montana is running the strongest straight line speed setup. We saw him in qualifying. He reached about 217 mile an hour down in towards turn number 1. Campbell, who was obviously on provisional pole for a little bit of time, only reached around 215, 216. So that is why I think Montana's running more of a straight line speed setup rather than a cornering setup. And that is why Connor, I think, currently has the advantage.
Yeah, we saw Montana last week, didn't we? Running very skinny in terms of the wings. He seemed to have the straight line advantage over Connor for most of that race. Train, as I said, not been broken. But I tell you what, who's really struggling right now? Justas. He is clinging to within a second of Campbell, barely. If there is going to be a break in the train, it's going to be there. I think it's looking like that way at the moment on the hard tyres. They don't to be working for him too much. Doesn't take the optimal line through Delarogier as well. Does like a bit like Montana, doesn't seem happy, but unlike Montana, unable to really deal with it. Probably hasn't had too much practice either. And if there is a break in this train, it's going to absolutely shaft everyone behind the brake. Justas dips over a second, but was within a second at the detection point. But if there's a break in the train, if it comes, everyone behind that brake is going to have their races absolutely mudded. So it's essential for everyone, I think, in these early stages, till we get some pit stops, they work together and just try and get into a bit of a holding pattern so that everyone stays in the fight for this race.
Oh, and what you've just said, I think may have just come true. He's just within a tenth of a second, basically, of losing DRS there, Justas, on the back of Campbell. And I think he has got the DRS. Yes, he does. He does have the DRS, which is good. So he's still in that train, and he can still try and catch. You would think, though, he has got a bit, actually, of less dirty air to go into. Therefore, he should be catching on the back of Campbell. It looks like Campbell, so far, has just got the pace over Justas, and that is why. And that's basically forcing Justas to use more battery, therefore use more tyres, and therefore use, obviously, more of his aggressiveness to try and even catch on to the back of Campbell there in 5th position. Lou as well, in 3rd position, I think is doing a really good job so far. The Dutchman has been fighting Montana last season in FRL, which I was, of course, covering live on another channel. But Lou, just for the first time, I think, is beginning to struggle as Gary now gets into his rhythm. He is on the back of Lou, and do you know what? I think he'd want this one after the shamble of a start that he had running down in towards turn number 1. Gary there in 4th hasn't still, obviously, got out of DRS range, which is good. But Lou, for me, just beginning to struggle in terms of his tyres. Gary's forcing back the front 2, just for the first time beginning to pull away, as Lolvacar now is the big cork in the bottle in the train.
Yeah, Lolvacar has made a mistake somewhere because he's now got a 1.4 second gap to Wouter ahead of him. The top 4 looked like they were starting to move away from Campbell a little bit, although Campbell has pulled himself back in. It's ebbing and flowing every which way. Gary said that he's done really well to keep a cool head and stay in this race. Oh, and Lolvacar's into the pits. That is very early for a pit stop. And maybe he's got some damage. Maybe that was where the gap came from. Although the walls aren't particularly close here, there's no reason to think he would have damage. But it seems he's getting a new front wing. I can't think where he would have hit the wall. Possibly on the exit of Lesmo, but I can't think he would have done that without losing a huge amount of time.
I think he's gone into the back of Wouter somewhere on track and we haven't seen it, potentially. And I think it was left side end plate damage on the car. And the only feasible place that they can actually do that is maybe down in towards Ascari last lap around, because we saw the gap obviously split from around Ascari just below, I think it was the Lesmo, so possibly around the Lesmo area. Lolvacar's been into the back of Wouter, got very close to the back of him, obviously picked up that damage, unless it was induced from lap 1 and it got a little bit worse during the race. Who knows? But he goes to the hard compounded tyres. It's around a 19 to 21 second pit stop, depending on what you are in terms of the box, the target box here in Monza. So therefore, Lolvacar has got to catch basically another 5 seconds to even get back into contention in this race.
Yeah, I think, and with the DRS trains as well, I think that could be curtains a little bit for Lolvacar's chances of a decent result today, unless we see a safety car of some sort. And that break that's caused has ruined the races of Izat. And here comes P, speaking of Izat, into P8, but it's ruined their races. Penalty for Lolvacar as well, compounded woes. But these guys were 1.5 seconds off. It's now 1.9, purely through DRS loss in a straight line. So they can't really do anything now. P's, Izat, Jerome, Verstappen, they've been cut off. They've got no real straight line supply, and that's hampering their lap time. They're going to struggle to get back into this race, very much so. And Justas, last lap as well, just want to mention, had a huge moment at the exit of Ascari, went about 2 or 3 car widths wide at the exit of turn 10, and but he did well to not drop the car entirely.
Yeah, obviously he's kept the foot to the floor. Wouter has gained around about a 3-4 tenth gap, obviously, as a result of that mistake from Justas. But he's still on the back of that train, and the hard compounded tyres is slowly but surely coming into play from this point. Maybe around here is where we'll see Montana potentially going on the back of Connor. Because look at the speed. Down the straight, in the slipstream, he's just caught a 1/10 of a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think he is running a straight line speed setup purely on this track around here tonight. Because Connor, out of the corner, look, pulls away, 1/10 of a second. Exactly what he did in Miami last week. But Montana, I think, is going to now have to try and go for the move and defend, because Lou is right on the back of him, in towards turn number 1. And Lou is absolutely charging down the straight, 220 mile an hour in towards turn number 1. And I thought he was going to lunge it down the inside on. He puts Montana under pressure, though, and lets Connor pull away by around 5.5 tenths. It's actually 1/10 of a second on the exit of the Retofilio chicane. Lou, though, with the battery, I don't think is going to try and fight back on Montana. Running up into the Della Rocha chicane, he's trying to desperately get onto the back of the AlphaTauri. The Williams, though, I think he's just going to sit and wait and suffer, and maybe put Montana outside of a second of DRS, and then get him.
It was some fabulous racecraft from Lou. He showed Montana the outside of the track. Montana, squirrely moment out of Lesmo 1. Verstappen passes Isat further down the field.
Made a mistake.
Also into Lesmo 1. But there's I think Lou, that was great racecraft. He just forced Montana to go deep, really compromised his line through turn 2, and then tried to get the run towards the Roger. It didn't come off, but it showed great awareness from Lou. And as you say, nearly has left Montana outside of a second. Had it done so, Montana would have been, I think, very vulnerable. And he's had a panicky lap as Montana, because he was on 79% ERS down straight last lap. He's now on 40%. He's had to use a huge amount of ERS to get back into within range of Connor to save himself from losing DRS. So this has been an awful lap from Montana by his standards in terms of his race plan.
Well, I was going to say there, to be honest, I wouldn't have been surprised if he actually came into the pit lane that lap around, because 17 to 18 laps on a set of mediums are doable. I'm not sure if they are doable. Obviously, it's my first commentary round on this game's here in Monza, so I'm not sure if the tyres are any different. But last game, certainly, I think Montana, if that was obviously the same strategy he was on last game, I think he probably would have came in the pit lane by now, going for a set of mediums, go for a huge undercut on the rest of the field, and then try and see it out towards the end of the race. Why wouldn't he? But then he's now beginning to up his pace once again, and Connor is the one now beginning to be put under pressure, and Lou, therefore, has to use up more ERS as a result. So it is a bit of a chopping and changing picture at the top end of the field here. Connor there leading the way, Montana in second, Lou in third, Gary Campbell running out the top 5, then Justas, Wouter, Pease, Euron and Verstappen top 10. And it's Izza and Rezify in 11th and 12th with Wolvercar, Rocco, Dylan top 15, Jake Hall and Force and Brendan there down in 17th position. Connor leading the way, though Montana much closer this time around, 4.5 tenths away. If I was him, I'd maybe have a go towards turn number 1, because I'd realised Lou begin to drop off in the pace. He's gone aggressive early as Lou, paying for it now in terms of the tyres. If I was Montana, I'd probably go now, because it looks like Connor thought he was coming in the pit lane there, but he's not. And Montana, running down the straight, is not going to get the job done down and towards turn number 1. But if I was in Montana's shoes, I'd pressurise Connor, put him under a bit of pressure, and maybe get the lead of the race, and then come in the pits.
He can. That would be double helpings for him, because I think he knows he'll be on the quick tyres in the second stint anyway with the mediums. So I would imagine he's just conserved himself for an attack in the second part of the race, as perhaps he did at Miami last week, knowing he'll be on better tyres later on. And won't have to navigate turn 1 and 2 on cold hards as Connor will, so could even gain through an undercut or an overcut potentially. But I agree with you, though. If he can get past Connor on track now, he may as well try and do it, because then he still has all the benefit of the mediums later on in the race, where he can try and gap Connor. He may as well try and get past. He seems the quicker car right now. Those mediums going off, as you say. He should go for it. Let's have a race for victory. Let's have a fight up front. Don't wait for the pit stops. Go for it now.
Yeah, we want a battle like we had in the last 2 laps in Miami last week between them both, and I want to see a repeat of that here tonight, and I'm sure everyone else does, of course, in the comments section there as well. But Connor leads the way. Reservoir has picked up, I think, maybe the first 3-second penalty of the night, as Wolvercar also picked up a penalty, I think, as well, on that same lap. But Connor there, as Gary is into the pit lane. Wow, early pit stop from Gary. Well, actually, no, it's around the halfway stage, exactly where I said he might pit in. and he's actually decided to come in, and Verstappen is into the pit lane from a set of hards onto a set of mediums, so he clearly feels that the tyres can get around this point. Montana, if he went an extra lap, I'm just saying, the mediums could probably last, but Gary into the pit lane, not Gary into the pit lane. He is coming out, I think, in P10 and a much clearer, and now he can try and put the hammer down, obviously, when he gets his tyres up his temperature, which will be probably down towards the curve El Serrallo.
It could be. I think it'll be a little longer. As I mentioned in qualifying, it's so hard to get temps even into the softs on your outlap of qualifying. They could be bad for a couple of laps for Gary. But, of course, by doing it now, and he's weaving through the chicane, we've got Brendan very slowly coming into pit entry. Getting that pain out of the way now, Brendan retires, means he'll have much better tyres when he fights against those who are pitting later than him. So I don't think he's going to undercut potentially. He's 26 seconds off the lead. He's not any quicker than Connor on this lap, it looks like. Once those tyres come in, he'll have a big advantage against the likes of Connor, against the likes of Luke, when they come out, because they're going to have to deal with those cold tyres while Gary's are nice and up to temperature. And still weaving all the way down to Ascari is Gary. Desperate.
Connor's in.
Just any kind of temperature. And I wonder if that is an attempt from Connor. He's seen Gary come in. He wants to cover that off ASAP.
Covers that off, and Montana was forced to go an extra few laps, so this is now the crucial part in the race. Connor's got to get these hards up to temperature, and I think, actually, he might have got a little bit held up there in the pit, and he has! Oh, I thought he did! Oh, goodness me! The game gave me a heart attack, but look at Lou, he's right on the back of him coming out the pit lane. He has obviously been held up in the pit lane, and Lou is right on the back of him coming out of the pit lane. Connor will be absolutely fuming at the Williams pit crew right now. Lou, unintentional, obviously, it's just how the game rolls. Connor immediately, though, looks like he's just got those tyres up to temperature. He's just pulled 7/10 clear of Lou, who's obviously struggling to try and get those tyres up to temperature. But Montana leads the way. Campbell in second, Justas in third. Surely this is now reaction time. You can see him using the ERS now, Montana, down in towards the Ascari chicane. And he's 2.2 seconds clear. This is his in-lap. This is now his push, basically a qualifying lap to try and cover off Connor. Connor, in terms of the gap to the leader, from Montana to Connor, 24.5 seconds. Normally, it is around that point when the drivers do come out the pit lane. So this is going to be extraordinarily close coming out the pit lane as Montana is in from the lead.
Gary's passed Lou into Ascari. Gary needs to get that move done while he has the tyre advantage. He has done so Gary's gained a place in that. And it's going to be Justas who inherits the lead of this race. I've got no idea why he's staying out. Justas is just going to cut himself off from Gary, from Lou, from Connor. He was hanging onto that train. He's going to be nowhere near it when he comes out of the pit lane now, because he's going to be running without DRS, whereas Connor is going to drag Gary and Lou and the likes along with some DRS, and it is going to be very close. As you say, Montana's out ahead. And he's weaving in the exit to try and get some tyre temp already. Is he going to go deep into turn one? No, he gets the car stopped. And Connor, if he's going to make the move, he's got to do it this lap.
He's got to do it now, I think, in towards Cover Grande, because he realises that Montana is a bit like Bambi on ice out there, and the Aston Martin closing in on the back of the AlphaTauri. But I think the AlphaTauri man is going to hang on, a bit of weaving down the straight, and Connor realises that. Doesn't want to obviously make contact with his NSX teammate, otherwise they'll be speaking a little bit later on about that. But Justas leads the way. Wouter in second, Pease in third, Jeroen in fourth. Connor now is going to apply the pressure all the way down in towards Ascari, all the way through in towards Parabolica as well. Connor's now big opportunity to try and take this race win is pretty much now as he closes in on the DRS, and he's now going to go for the attack down in towards Ascari, pulls to the left-hand side. Montana on the mediums, I think it's just going to let him go, and Connor is back there and he's into the net lead of the race. He might have just picked up a warning on the exit there of Ascari, and Montana now, much fresher tyres. Those tyres are now at temperature. What does he do from this point onwards? Does he just sit him behind, wait, or does he give us an 11.5 lap battle right to the checkered flag with Gary, Lou, Campbell potentially getting involved later on?
It's a battle. I mean, Montana's got to win the championship. He knows there's no one who can beat him over a season.
Oh, he's going for it now.
He is going for it. He's going for it. This is what we love to see. Montana going to take his place back into turn one, and he's going to be safely ahead by the French Connor thing. I don't think Connor can fight this one back.
He doesn't down in towards turn number one, and Connor tries to get the switch back out though of the Retafilo chicane. Better exit actually by Connor.
Campbell and Justas sorry at turn two. Contact, Campbell got pinched up the inside of turn two, got knocked into a half spin. Justas came away scot-free, and Campbell will be seething at that.
He will be absolutely seething. I didn't actually see that on the stream, so I'm imagining Campbell down the inside of Justas in towards turn one, just too tight for room.
It looked that way. I mean, Justas then was then around the outside of turn 2, and I think he just put or forced Campbell up against the curve. Campbell got knocked into half spin over those bumpy orange sausage curves, and it was nasty. It was naughty. But I didn't see the whole incident, so I don't want to say who was at fault. But it looked like Justas was a bit naughty there. And here comes Campbell. He's taking the place back. I wonder if Justas is returning that place that perhaps he felt he gained illicitly.
Yeah, good sportsmanship nonetheless. And now Campbell obviously was on the back of Lou. And now he's basically without a second. Jerome ends the pit lane from the lead of the race. He's well down the back towards Lolvacar Izza, that sort of area potentially out on track. Montana, though, has made his escape for glory and he's nearly out of slipstream range, nearly out of DRS range, bangs in a new fastest lap at 1:20.5, and that was only around 2 seconds slower than his actual qualifying lap. As now Lou attacks Gary in towards turn number 1. Here comes the Williams on the back of the Irishman in towards turn number 1, and the Dutchman is through and he's into 3rd position. Gary there into 4th. Campbell there is through and he's into 5th as well, with Ruta and Verstappen, and Pease getting quite close as well. In the background, a shot Pease on the back of Verstappen running through Curva Grande or Curva Biasono, but Montana leading the way. Connor in 2nd. It's now pretty much a 2-horse race up the front end. Lou and Gary 3 seconds basically off, and they're obviously going to be losing time as Montana escaping the bid for glory. Mediums now, obviously the much fresher tyre out on track. He's got him outside of a second, and now this is only going to be going one way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, Montana can only stop himself from winning this race now, and we never see that happen unless it's Bahrain under a safety car. Montana, I think, is going to be cruising to the end now. He's on better tyres. Those tyres will probably be better for most of that stint. I imagine Connor will be feeling a little bit sucker punched through that. But the real battle is the battle for the podium. We've got Lou versus Gary, and if those two fight for too much, it can bring Campbell and Justas back into play, and even Wouter behind on the mediums. Don't discount him either, because it's the two at the front are on the hards. Everyone behind them, Campbell, Justas, Wouter, Verstappen, even Pease, all on mediums, and any battling ahead. We could see several drivers join this party for P3.
Here comes Gary on the back of Lou down in towards turn number 1. The Irishman's going to go to the inside and he's got no other choice. Lou on the outside line. Gary locks up in towards turn number 1, and Lou has to be forced out wide. And now Campbell sweeps around the outside as a result, and Lou will be very, very angry at Gary. There's nothing he can do about it. He got boxed in completely, and now Lou's trying to fight back on the outside of Lou. Curva Grande. Justas trying to join in the action as well. The Williams back through on the Alfa Romeo, and the Alfa Romeo, tries to cut off Justas in towards the Della Roger chicane. Justas there in 6th. Campbell there in 5th. Heart in your mouth moment there for you, Justas or Campbell. Lou back through and he's into 4th though. He clearly does not have those tyres at the temperature whatsoever. He's on a lap fresher tyres as well. Gary now makes his bid for glory for 3rd, and now Campbell makes his bid for 4th position on the back, running down in towards the scar. He's not going to be quite close enough. He just needs to conserve his battery up in Campbell at this stage. But compared to last lap around, Campbell looks a lot quicker than these guys in front, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the job done probably this lap around.
He does indeed, and I think he's even gaining on Lou towards Parabolica. That was a naughty step across in front of Justas towards De La Roger, almost in the braking zone. Cheeky from Campbell, but he's just paying back Justas for that shove at turn 1 that he got. And here he is now, he's using the DRS, not that he's got any left, and you can see Lou has a little bit more, and he's just going to pull away there. Only needs to use a tiny bit, and he's going to pull away from Campbell. Campbell has a look out, Spotty's Breaking Boy can't do anything. And Wouter, 2.5 seconds behind this lot, dragging Verstappen and Pease with him on the medium tyres. Watch that gap, because like I said, it could well be that we suddenly see a 7-car battle for P3 in the laps to come.
Yeah, obviously going to be an interesting one. Verstappen and Pease, Wouter as well, all get involved in a battle further down the field. My voice is taking a real hit in terms of this Italian Grand Prix. I don't care though, I do it for your enjoyment. Montana leads the way, Connor there in 2nd, Gary there in 3rd, Lou there in 4th, Campbell there in 5th. Again, looking quick, he's got 21% of battery, much better compared to this lap around, where he had him only around 8 or 9%. So Campbell now going to be conserving that ERS, obviously out on track, and he's doing a bit of left and coast, but even before he gets to the corner, therefore gets the battery, and therefore gets a much better exit compared to Lou. On the run up towards Parabolica, this is game on once again for 3rd, 4th and 5th position, and also game on potentially for 7th, 8th and 9th, for Verstappen and Pease potentially going to go going side by side in the background of the shop. But Montana leads the way. Connor there in second. They fly out of Parabolica for the 20th time. Onto lap 20 we go here in Italy. And now Justas joins the fray on the back of Campbell. Look at the speed that the Red Bulls carrying. The defending champion, the Lithuanian. And Campbell, of course, now coming to blows once again like they did last season, season 7. Campbell holds on around the outside line and just parks his car basically in front of the Red Bull, saying, you're not coming through. Verstappen through as well on Pease, and they're fighting side by side through Curva Grande as well. What an excellent race this has been, as now Pease on the inside line of Curva Grande might get this job done on Verstappen. To the outside line goes the Haas man on the Alfa Romeo. This should be job done maybe for the Haas, but Verstappen still there on the inside line, side by side with Della Roccia. Pease gets the job done. Your own filters through. Verstappen loses 2 positions. Great battle that. Montana through and he's still in the lead. Connor in second, Gary in third. All the action happening further down the field as Girona's on the back of Verstappen.
It was an exact replica of what we saw in lap 1. Pease and Verstappen side by side into turn 4. Verstappen gets off line. Jerome laps up the inside into Lesmo 1, and Jerome's looking to make it 2 places in a lap, although he goes a little deep into Ascari. And that is Wouter round. He was flying towards the back of that podium battle. Not anymore. He's dropped it, and he's going to join his teammate. His teammate spins in sympathy. Izzat into the wall as well. And what a shocking lap for Ferrari.
Ferrari L plan, I think, happening here in Italy. Campbell on the back of Lou running down in towards turn number 1. Justas though, look at the speed, 221 mile an hour in towards turn number 1. The Red Bull tries to go all the way around the outside of Campbell, and Campbell again says, you're not coming through. I'll just park my car right in front of you. Your own dives it down the inside on a beautiful move on Pease, down the inside, doing his into 7. All of that happening, Montana still holds the lead and controls the lead by 2 seconds as Justas now on the back of Campbell in towards the Della Roccia chicane, and there's contact and Justas nearly in the wall, spins the car. That is unfortunate. He's out of the race as well. He's in the wall, and Justas might have just caused a safety car perhaps there, and it is a VSC. VSC currently out on track. It is off track though, so maybe it's not going to get upgraded, but I think Justas was pushing the limits there, to be honest. I've got to be brutally honest. He was on the outside line. Campbell was giving him the space. Basically one tap, sent him in the wall on the right-hand side. Justas, I think, needs to learn patience.
Yeah, I think that was very desperate. I didn't see it probably as well as you did, but that was looked very desperate from Justas. He'd hit the back of Campbell through turn 1 a couple of times the last laps when he couldn't quite make the move stick. Is he tucked back under Campbell for turn 2. He just hit the back of the Alfa Romeo, and I wonder if that, in combination with that little move under braking towards turn 4, and then the collision before that at turn 2 as well, I wonder if Justas just had some pent-up frustration and ended up bore out too much for him, and he ended up dying there. I think that was the result of pure frustration, but we are back under green.
Back underway, and Connor's gained about 4/10 per second underneath the safety car restart, or VSC restart I should say. 1.7 seconds though in behind Montana. Lou on the back of Gary for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Campbell there and still in 5th. And now, because of Justas trying that move in towards the Della Roccia chicane, which he shouldn't have really attempted. We saw Campbell and, Verstappen and Pease going side by side. They managed to do it absolutely spot on. They gave each other enough room, both of them to get through at the same time. Verstappen in the end losing both positions, obviously to Rowan and to Pease. And therefore, Justas, I think, patience is an absolute virtue, I think, on this game. You've got to be patient if you want to try and win, or try and get on the podium in Justas's case here. I know he will learn from that, and I know he will get a lot better as a result. Montana, though, leads the way. Connor there in 2nd, Gary in 3rd, Lou in 4th, Campbell there in 5th, your own Pease, Verstappen, Lovercar, Wouter top 10. Then it's Reservoir, Izza, Rocco, J. Cole and Dylan, the top 15 drivers out on track. Looking at the comment section as well, I have been not tuned into the comment sections, I apologise. I don't think we've been missing much, though. Jav was saying maybe Connor missed his turn when pitting and had a longer stop than normal. That may have been the case. Pease, however, on the back, relentless man against relentless man down towards turn number 1. Mercedes against the Haas. This should be easy for Pease. Look at the speed, down the straight, in towards turn number 1. Job done for Pease, and he's through, and he's into 6th, and he definitely has a Pease of that one.
He certainly does. We've got a yellow flag. Who is that?
Izza.
Died. It's Izza at the last corner. You mentioned patience. I'll tell you a man who's being very patient right now, and that's FRL Lou 24. His ERS. He's been quietly stockpiling it. He's on 98%. and Resify was out, or Dylan, sorry, has spun at Ascari. But now on 100% through my one. Yeah, Luke quietly stockpiling his ERS. I think he's going to wait to make this move on Gary until he can be absolutely certain he can pull it off, and he is going to let that ERS held fire rain down upon Gary, because Gary's only running 37%. Gary can defend a little bit, but Lou's got enough charge for a couple of concerted attacks to come against Gary.
Carry on, I just have to do a little bit of moderation.
Oh, we've got Lulvicar fans, I see. The bots are back in the stream chat.
There we go.
Tell you what, Connor catching Montana, and he's out of the race at Lesbo too. Could that be a late safety car? No, it's not. I thought that one. But Connor is catching Montana, James. He's come down to 1.3. Montana's D-rating as well. Though hard tyre is coming towards Connor, and he is catching our race leader.
He is catching the race leader, but is it going to be enough? 3.5 laps basically to go for the leaders. Montana leading the way. Connor there in second, Gary in third. Campbell right on the back of Lou in towards the Delaware chicane once again. Montana though holding the lead from Connor there in second. Yeah, gap is coming down. Has Montana just overworn it? Connor, by the way, I can see the red fuel light on for Connor in the Aston Martin. That is big trouble potentially on the final lap of this race. But Montana, I think he's slowed down on purpose here, or he's just slowing down in terms of potentially his pace. I think he's trying to give us a little bit of a battle here, potentially. Montana was running away with it. 2 seconds to the gap. It's now 0.6 of a second. You cannot say to me he hasn't really waited up for Connor to try and give these guys a battle. There was some form of communication there, and that communication I like, because I like to see a battle again between these two.
We'll agree to disagree there. If Montana's slowing to give us a battle, I don't like that personally. I think it makes a mockery of the league if you're scripting battles. But Connor very much, I think, will wait for opportunity.
Is Jerome
on lap 27, and Jerome making a move on P's there for P6. Jerome's been quietly ascending through the field. He passed Verstappen. He's now past P's. And up ahead, let's have a look at Lou's ERS. 92%. He's still holding back for that final attack on Gary, not planning it just yet.
Or Connor makes a mistake through the Delaware chicane. Unfortunately, I rolled on board with that at the right time, pretty much when he was correcting his car, and he's lost 4.5 tenths of a second there to Montana, and he is pushing the limits now because he realises he knows now he's in a battle. Otherwise, Montana has made a mistake, potentially out on track, and Connor now is within DRS range. 20% of ERS, 25% for Montana. Montana's got slightly more to try and defend. Will that be enough, though? As I said, Montana, I think, has got a straight line speed setup on potentially. Connor more cornering setup. And now, in this race, as Lou's right on the back of Gary coming through Ascari, and I think Lou's going to make this move this time around. I think Campbell on the back as well, running down in towards turn number 11 at Parabolic of Montana. Leading the way, Connor, I don't think is close enough down in towards turn number 1. He's trying to break the toe, actually, Montana, down towards turn number 1. Lou, I think, was sideways at the final corner at Parabolic as well. Montana leading the way. Connor in second stays as they are. Lou, though, now using up that battery. Now using up to try and attack and up the straight line speed. 221 mile an hour down in towards turn number 1. On the outside line in toward the Redfield chicane. Gary gives him absolutely no inch of room on the inside. Beautiful stuff there by Lou. Little minimal contact. That is how you race into the Redfield chicane. Lou through and he's into third. But now he's got Gary still in the back of him. And do you know what? I think Campbell's probably got their number. Probably doubly.
Campbell, 2% ERS, 1% into De La Roche. He's got little to fight with. I think he can only hope to capitalise off a battle between Gary and Lou, although Lou's still on 60%. I think Lou can defend from anything Gary throws at him as well. You can see how he's pulling away on the exit. He's just deploying that in all the right spots. He saved it up well, and he's going to hold off Gary for this podium place. Montana and Connor sit at 0.4 of a second as we exit Ascari for the penultimate time. One more to go through Parabolica now, and then it's the last run towards turn 1. And will Montana, how hard is he going to fight this? He weaves just to let Connor know that he's not going to give this one up too easily. I can only presume. Connor's deploying out of a powered rocket. Here we go now. It's the battle for the lead towards turn one. Montana weaves to the left. Is he going to go to the right? No, he's going to hold the inside line. He shapes across in front of Connor at the last possible moment. Connor's got the inside line. He's going to be ahead by the braking zone. Can he get the car slowed down? Can he get the car turned in? He absolutely can. He picks his spot for one and for two. Gets a little love tap from the back of Montana there. And squirreling away under traction. Montana using all his DRS. This isn't over.
He's going to come back.
DRS for him to go.
Down in towards Cova Grande, he's going to come back, I think, maybe down in towards Ascari or in towards Parabolica. They're the only two opportunities he's got, really, Montana. He's saved up, though, enough battery to attack. He's got 24% of ERS, 19% currently for Connor, and Montana on the back, potentially now, looking for this victory again. A little bit sideways out of Lesbo 1. Now can we do Lesbo 2? Connor leading the way. Has he weathered the storm here for Montana? And he pulls away out of Lesbo 1, and that might be it. Down in towards Ascari, down the covered El Serralio, in towards Ascari. Connor leading the way, 2.5 tenths per second. Pretty much out of battery now as Montana. He's got 10% of battery to try and fight back. Connor a little bit sketchy out of Ascari. Not over and done with yet in towards Parabolica as Montana's now going to try and run. Both derating down the straight here. Lou pulls away from Gary there in third. He's going to wrap up the podium positions there. But Connor, around the final corner, weathers the storm. However it was scripted or not, it might not have been. Connor takes the win here in Italy. Very, very pleased with that. Montana there in second. Lou in the end, finishing in third on his debut in LOE. He looks a star of the future potentially here. Gary there in fourth. Campbell there in fifth. Jerome there in sixth. Pease there in seventh, Verstappen there in eighth, Lovacar to the line, finishing in ninth. I think he'll drop down though with Wouter in terms of the potential penalties. Yes, he does. Wouter there in ninth, Lovacar there in 10th. We wait for Reservoir, Jekyll and Rocco, who are having their private battle for the last point scoring position. Not over and done with yet, but I think Jekyll obviously back after a spin. I think the set of soft compound tyres had, and Jekyll there in P12, Rocco there in 13th, and I think they're going to remain as the old Jekyll picking up the final point score here in LOE Division 1 tonight. Connor takes the win. Montana in second, will run above Jekyll. He is going to confirm this 12th position on the run to the line. Rocco there in 13th. When will he get a point again? Remains to be seen as they come across the line to finish in 12th and 13th position. Connor takes two in a row though. Miami to Italy. Great race from him. Your own takes control of the day, all about the in-game fans. But it is Connor's day at the Temple of Speed.
It absolutely is. He played those last couple of laps beautifully, as he did in Miami as well. Connor's 2 for 2 when finishing races this season with another victory. Montana, though, obviously still hasn't finished outside the top 2. He is still walking towards his championship with Wouter down in 7th place, I think it was, and Rudy not starting. Montana extends his lead by, I want to say, 11 points this race. So we're up to, I think, 59 point lead going to Singapore next week. So championship, he continues to tighten his hold on that, but he's not having his own way in the races. He struggled in qualifying. He was given a good fight in the race. In the end, he didn't manage to come out. And it is Connor's day once again. And Gary just missing out on that podium. How it would have been if that start hadn't gone the way it was for him. But you mentioned Lou on debut with a podium finish. Some great battles. And I want to say, James, I think that's our best race we've had this season for pure on-track, clean racing action.
I honestly agree. Maybe turn 1, lap 1, potentially. Obviously, given a few incidents further down the field, people having to pit in for a little bit of front wing. But that was entertaining, and that was Formula 1. It is Connor that takes the win for Montana there in second. All of that, I think, spawned basically from the start that Connor got. Absolutely mowed down the field and towards turn number 1. Already ahead 2 positions. Got on the back of Montana. Montana initially had the pace. And initially had the pace on the second stint compared to Connor. Lou, though, in third, looked very, very good going forward. Gary there in fourth. His best result, I think, of the season, which is really strong indeed. Campbell there in fifth. Jeroen in sixth. Pease in seventh. Verstappen there in eighth. Wouter there in ninth. Lovacar ran off the top 10. Reservoir and Jekyll ran off the point-scoring positions. Rocco and Dylan getting home in 13th and 14th. Dylan a lap down. Izza, Justas, falls of Brendan Hyper down at the back of the field. DNFing out of the race. Connor takes the win. Montana second. Lou in third. Shall we try and get the top 3 in?
I think we absolutely should indeed.
Oh, I'm gonna run through. Oh, I haven't got the calendar saved. That's a thing that I forgot to add to my OBS scenes before we got going a little bit early on. I'll just get it up quite quickly. Don't want to show you the WR calendar that I've got from last night. If you can invite the top 3 in or get them to ask for an interview, that would be great. While I just try and get the calendar up at this stage, just so we can show, of course, the racing to come next week. And I found the calendar. It's going to look a little bit awkward potentially, but there we are. There is the calendar for this season. And as you say, Mr. Killer, it is Singapore next week for round number 6. Totally different track compared to the Temple of Speed. More technical, more on the limit in terms of Monaco as well as a potential track. Singapore, though, are we potentially going to see rain at Singapore?
That would be my worst nightmare, to be honest with you. We've gone from the shortest race of the season today in terms of time to the longest next week. We'll be getting close to an hour for the race itself. With heavy rain, with safety car, there's no one. I think that would be a very, very long and grueling race. And with rain, you don't get the wheel-to-wheel battles either, generally. It could be a long evening for us both were rain to befall us at Singapore. But you never know. Imola threw up an absolute treat with some rain, so let's see.
Let us see indeed. We have got Montana in the chat with us as well in terms of the commentary box. We'll interview him very shortly. Hopefully Connor will be in for an interview. Just looking through the track. There was talk actually of a new lobby. Pease was complaining about FPS, which is not that great, and obviously I think that is a new glitch, obviously, that's within the game. Everyone as well saying, Lou saying he can do an interview, but he doesn't have an invite. I don't think he can see the channel, potentially, can our Lou, so we'll try and get him in very soon. But as we say, I'll run through the rest of the calendar while we obviously wait on Connor and Lou to come in. Britain, France, Australia in the next batch of races after that. Then it's Hungary, Azerbaijan, Belgium and Austria before the break week. Spain, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and then our traditional finale in Abu Dhabi once again. We'll now move in our race winner. And of course, our race winner is Mr. NSX Connor. And Connor, tonight, you had to do that the complete and utter hard way. Talk us through the race, because it was, at the end, absolutely gripping in terms of the final 2 laps. If Connor is here, that is. I wonder if he can he hear us? Can you all hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good. Is Connor here? I think he's unmuted himself now. I think we've got a little bit of a problem potentially in terms of Connor's connection. Tell you what we'll do, I'm going to move everyone into the waiting room. I think that might be a little bit better potentially. So I'll go into the waiting room and I will move everyone in. Mr. Kilter has joined us. We've got Lou in as well. Then I'll move in. Oh, God, I'm messing things up. Come on, there's Montana, and there is Connor as well. Connor, P1 out on track. Can you hear us now? No, he can't. It is a problem, I think, with his end.
He's probably drowned in champagne.
Don't blame him, to be honest, after that race. It was obviously very, very intense and very eye-catching. What we'll do, though, obviously, we'll try and sort out Connor with his connection issues. Oh, I've just seen his mic move. Connor, are you here?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
You are here. Fantastic stuff. P1 out on track. You had to fight for that tonight after a really good start, obviously, on that one. Talk us through the race, because in the end, it was absolutely gripping the final couple of laps.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun race. Made it a bit harder for myself with the warm quali, but that's to be expected. But yeah, I was really happy with that. I was struggling with the car a lot. Rear end wanted to overtake the front pretty much every corner, so it was kind of keep it on track and try and get in the DRS of Montana once he pulled away. So just trying to save the battery, but then the virtual safety car come out. Helped me charge the battery, so just emptied it all in one lap just to get in the DRS, and then wait for the last lap to try and make a move, and went well.
It did go well. We were wondering what was going on after the VSC because all of a sudden the gap was, I think, up at 2 seconds. Then the gap came down to 5/10, and we were thinking maybe it's getting a little bit scripted potentially out on track. But you were saying now that you were obviously using up that ERS to try and close in the gap to Montana.
Yeah. There's no way Montana's letting me that close just for scripting reasons. We want to win by as big a margin as possible. Yeah, I think the mediums they die off in the end of the stint, so I think my tyres were better towards the end. But still not easy to overtake. Montana was really quick today. Which makes it even better to win.
Yeah, really good to win as well. 2 in a row as well for Miami. Looking forward into next week in Singapore. How do you think you're going to get on?
I've no idea. I haven't done that track yet, but it's been a decent track for me in the past. Hopefully it is, and hopefully qualify well and no mistakes, and hopefully I can win, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we will have to see indeed. Mr. Killer, any questions?
Yes, there was a point in the first stint of that race where we saw you briefly, caught the end of it, going over, like cutting turn 2, and you and Montana were a little further ahead, and then after that you weren't. The cars behind you, Campbell and so had reeled you back in. What happened there? Because I don't think either of us properly saw it.
I drove into the back of Montana. I broke a bit late and tried to avoid him, just clipped his rear. Luckily no damage, so we could carry on and no penalty. But yeah, it was a bit of a dodgy one. That's when I knew I had to overtake, even if I had no battery, just to get some clear air. Because when I'm driving below the limit is normally when I crash. So I had to just get some clean air and just put the laps in.
But other than that, it seemed mostly harem scarum free, that race for you.
Yeah. Apart from that moment, it was all fairly under control.
Well, congratulations on a second win as well.
Thank
you. Good job I didn't catch that collision either on the stream, so I think they've been spared a trip to the stewards perhaps in terms of that. Connor, though,
pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Pretend it didn't happen. Go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Cheers.
You're very welcome indeed. And now we'll move to the man who, of course, finished in P2, and that, of course, with Mr. NSX Montana. And Montana, in the end, qualifying 400s clear, obviously, of your teammate Gary. First of all, with qualifying, you must have been happy with pole position, given that you weren't looking forward to the track.
Yeah, I was not quick on this track, and I just found some setups that worked a bit yesterday. But the quality times were actually really bad. Like in quad, we were doing 0.7s in practice. So yeah, I was just happy to share the front row with Gary and to keep the 100% pole record at the moment.
Yeah, 100% pole record, definitely. And obviously, going into the race, you absolutely launched off the start. I think you were around 8/10 clear at the end of lap 1. And then you had Connor pretty much right on your rear end on that set of medium compounded tyres. What was going through your mind? Was there a little bit of a strategy call saying, don't fight, let's just try and pull away from the Lou and Gary and the rest behind?
Not really, no. I was just trying to hold them back as long as I could on the hards. So the chances for me were better to stay with them and not drop off. Because I knew Connor's race pace was mad. He was so quick, probably the quickest guy today by a lot. So yeah, then obviously with ABS you have to brake a bit earlier on some tracks like this and last week. So yeah, Connor just braked like 30 meters later and hit my back. I don't know if rear wing damage is a thing, but the rear was just everywhere after that. And yeah, that later also probably cost me the race.
Yeah, we saw in qualifying as well with that rear end obviously stepping out. So I was convinced that you were running more straight line speed setup than actual cornering setup as well.
Yeah, something on like 3-1 wings, which is not too low. I think people were lower than that. But I don't know. I tried everything to increase rear grip this week, but it just wasn't there. Because the understeer, the snap oversteer on exits. So yeah, probably that.
Yeah, it's obviously a solid race still, though, from your perspective. Still leading the championship. By goodness knows how many points going into next week. Mr. Killer, I'm going to come across to you. Any questions?
Yes. So far this season, generally, I feel like you've made a habit of starting on the softer tyre, well, usually the medium, rather than the hard. Today you went for the hard rather than the medium. Why was that? Because I know there's a reason for everything you do.
That's a really good spot, Jake. Yeah, I was a last-second decision. I was planning to start on mediums all week long, but then I just thought, with Gary not having the best starts usually, that I could keep it into turn 1 and then see from there. So yeah, pretty much the race went to plan because of that. So just the mediums dropping off a bit to the end and me nearly in the wall, 4 laps to go. But yeah, I'm usually not comfortable with that, especially with the risk of early safety cars, which almost happened. So you could jump on hards then, but I don't know. Today I felt lucky, I guess.
Yeah. I want to have my smug moment because I said during the formation lap, I wonder if Montana's gone hard because he knows he's got Gary with his terrible starts alongside him. So thank you for letting me have my smug moment. But yeah, I was genuinely interested, even that aside, because it's gone counter to what you've done most of this season.
Yeah, and final question from me, obviously, Montana, before you go. Singapore next week. Normally Crash is the king of Singapore. How do you think you're going to get on around there?
The pace was always amazing there. Just always chaos in the races. And I probably didn't mean my rain poems and dances enough this week, so we'll probably have to improve on that next week. And win by a minute to P2. But yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't mind a wet race. Allow that you can start on whatever tire you want. It's a bit more comfortable around Singapore, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for as well, to be honest. A wet race, just spice things up a little bit. Go and enjoy Evening, though.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You are very welcome indeed. And now, for the first time, we'll speak through Discord at least to Mr. FRL Lou, finishing there in P3. And Lou, on your debut this week, P3, I don't think could get any better than that.
Or James. But yeah, like you said, P3 is a pretty good result. Like especially like my first race here against like new guys I've never raced against. So yeah, I would say that's pretty good to start with. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed really strong as well in terms of your pace. You were on that sort of hard compound tyres towards the end of the race there as well. What was the strategy behind you saving up all of your battery? Because you realise, I think, that Gary was probably a little bit slower ahead of you. You had 100% of ERS. How did you basically correct yourself to think, oh, when am I going to use this? When am I going to deploy it? And you used it in the end, the last 2 laps of the race.
Well, yeah, that was actually my idea to do so because I saw him flashing like the whole race, like maybe 2 laps not, but yeah, so I spared up all my energy for the last 2 laps, so I can just easily get in front of him and then just actually drive away. So P3 was guaranteed at the end.
Yeah, it was guaranteed, I think, considering how slow Gary was towards the end of the race there as well. We have a little bit of pet hatred, potentially, for Gary getting on the podium, but he did drive a great race himself. Killer, I'm going to come across to you. Any questions?
Yeah, so your first race in LOE, what are your general one? What are your hopes for the season going forward? Where are you aiming to be each week? Are you expecting to be back talking to us week after week like Montana?
Well, actually, I'm the only thing I will be driving for is like for P1. I mean, that's probably every racing driver's answer. So yeah, of course, I hope to score some, on the top of the podiums. But podiums after all are good. So I hope for podiums. That's all actually.
Yeah, obviously I've been seeing how Lou's been getting on an FRL as well. He's been dominating around there. Obviously not with the same caliber field as we've got in LOE. Going into next week, though, obviously, if you're going to be racing in Singapore, how do you think you're going to get on around there? Because I think I know that's a track that you actually like.
Yeah, I know. Like Singapore is like one of those tracks with really high tire temps if you don't manage them correctly. And luckily, I'm one of those guys who can manage tires pretty good, and also like being good on hards, which is the favorite tire there for me at least. So yeah, if I can drive in Singapore, then I might have a good chance. Let's say that.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. Definitely, indeed. Go and enjoy your evening.
Thanks for commentating, guys.
You are very welcome indeed, and that rounds off our full caliber of interviews tonight. A big thank you to Connor, to Montana, and to Lou, of course, for joining us in the interview room. Much appreciated, of course, as always, and hopefully everyone is going to be having a good night. As we've already alluded to, Singapore next week, Jake. How do we think we're going to get on around there? Because it could cause absolute pure chaos.
I think it could be. I mean, we've seen some great wheel-to-wheel racing this week, and I think it could throw up some surprises. I mean, the walls are very close, as you say. Longest race on the calendar, as I mentioned earlier as well. I certainly think there's the chance that fatigue and tiredness and a little lack of concentration could creep in the second half of that race. So I'm banking on one of those classic late LOE safety cars that always throw up a surprise. And as you mentioned, rain could play a factor as well. And as long as it's not wet the whole race, we get rain that dries up or rain that arrives at some point, I think it could be well. And I was like nearly a lap down at one point and then finished, I think, 5th or 6th because the wets ran out and I was on inters or something, and it was just absolutely bonkers. So I wouldn't mind one of those, actually.
Wouldn't mind one of those. Hopefully, though, we're not going to see, obviously, Verstappen, Vettel, that sort of incident down in towards turn 1 with Raikkonen on the inside line, like back in 2017. Hopefully, you did enjoy the stream, though, here tonight. Like, comment, subscribe. Tick that notification bell, of course, if you're brand new to the channel. And if you want on the boss account, you can do the same exactly as that. Division 2 and Division 4 are coming up very soon indeed. Division 2, obviously, is going to be... hang on, I need to check the commentating calendar in terms of the racing tonight, because I know Mr. Commentalist is not here. He's luckily swanned himself in Paris somewhere. So, Commentalist, if you're watching, good evening and bonjour from Paris. But looking through, it is J. Colin QVR Verstappen taking to the Division 2 and Alt Maverick by himself for Division 4. So you can tune in for that in approximately 15.5 minutes' time. So grab yourself a cuppa and get tuned in to Killer Blue bottling it in Division 2. Thank you so much for watching.